I'm in Massapequa Park, right outside the alleged Gilgo Beach killer's home with Newsday special writer Anthony DiStefano. And you spoke with a retired FBI agent who talked about what the prosecutors called Rex Heuermann's manifesto when it came to his alleged killings. What were some things that stood out to that FBI agent in those documents?
Well, one of the things that stood out to the retired FBI agent was the fact that there seemed to be some indication that the suspect, Rex Heuermann, wanted to expand the time he had with the victims and sort of keep the process going, where he wanted to have time with them and not necessarily kill them right away after he had satisfied himself.
This is the retired FBI agent who shared his insights on the case and the behavior of serial killers.
They like to torture these victims over prolonged periods of time. And that's their fantasy, and that's what they, and what they're always trying to do is make the fantasy a reality.
Now, it's important to understand that Rex Heuermann has pleaded not guilty to all these charges against him. What kind of mindset does a person, according to this FBI agent, have to carry out these alleged killings and do it multiple times?
Well, serial killers, in the experience of the retired FBI agents and other law enforcement people, is that they like the thrill of the experience. They get off on it, to use sort of a street term.
And that's the payoff. People get the wrong impression sometimes that sadism is about inflicting pain or suffering. No, it's about the victim's reaction to the infliction of pain and suffering that's the payoff.
Ken Bufa, Newsday TV.
Unity, respect, middle-class values, just some of the themes that have been talked about throughout this entire convention. But for Long Island voters, the real question is this: what would a Harris-Walz presidency mean for them back at home?
It looks like opportunity. It looks like hope for our future.
We are all in this together.
The Democratic Party celebrating Kamala Harris's nomination with a star-studded event, complete with musical superstars, actresses, and activists, and average Americans affected by tragedy.
To be able to be in this room as a black woman, a little girl who didn't even know that I could be in elected office, and to know that my little daughter's watching home.
It's absolutely powerful. If we can take this back home into our communities and manifest it into a call to action and having people do something, we have a bright future.
What Harris and Walz would do is make sure that young families have an opportunity to actually live in Long Island. That's a very crucial point, because we're seeing it every single day. They're leaving for other states.
It's a moderate administration that still wants to get things done, but bring the country together, stop all the bitterness, stop all the arguing, and have Republicans and Democrats work together to find solutions.
It's going to mean a lot of things. Number one, as long as I'm majority leader, state and local deductibility, the cap will go away. So many teachers and construction workers and business people will get a break in their taxes.
On the convention floor in Chicago, I'm Sherry Einhorn for Newsday TV.
Violent, gory, dark, and tragic. That's The Crow, in theaters this weekend.
No, I do.
The Crow is not a remake of the 1994 original film with Brandon Lee, the rising Hollywood star who was killed during filming. This is a reboot, and it's actually a big improvement with two very interesting leading actors. Bill Skarsgård, best known as Pennywise from It, plays Eric, a recovering addict living in a dystopian city. The pop singer FKA Twigs plays his true love, Shelley. She's a budding musician, of course. The great Danny Houston plays Rogue, an occult kingpin whose minions kill our two heroes, but Eric is brought back from the dead for revenge. The Crow is prime goth rock stuff, and director Rupert Sanders really lays it on. We've got black trench coats, smeared eyeliner, and a soundtrack featuring Joy Division and Gary Newman. We've also got an incredible amount of blood, with one climactic scene that makes a splattery mess of an elegant opera house. It's all pretty silly, but Skarsgård and Twiggs are convincing as doomed lovers in a cruel world. You might take them almost as seriously as the movie does. The Crow franchise was never a big hit, but times have changed. R-rated comic book movies like Deadpool and Joker have done very well at the box office. The Crow might just find a whole new generation of moody fans. For Newsday TV, I'm Rafer Guzman.
Feed Me is brought to you by PC Richard & Son.
When I was a little girl, my dad used to say, "Erica, sharks that eat their prey whole don't get as much out of a lobster as you do." Bought this little thing at a dental supply store, and because those little cocktail forks are useless, I bring my own lobster pick. First, I separate the tail from the thorax. Then I get as much meat as I can from the little legs. You break them off at the joint. The trick here is not to suck the meat out of the shell, it's to use your back teeth to push it out of the shell. Now this is a fair amount of work, and one reason I'd rather pay more and have a larger lobster is that because it's always the same amount of work, but a larger lobster has a much bigger yield. Okay, back to the thorax. I pry the shell away from, I don't know what the heck this is called. Before you even get to the meat, you'll find this greenish gray stuff. It's called the tamale. It just tastes like the sea. I think the test of a real lobster eater is how you handle the thorax. I'm breaking it in two. The one thing you're not going to want to eat are what are called the dead man's fingers. These are these little feathery things, and they're basically the gills. They're not bad for you, but they don't taste good. There's actually like big chunks of meat in between these pieces of cartilage. Break them off at the shoulders. By bending and breaking it at the joint, and then using your finger and or a pick, you can pry or push the meat out. Many people think that this is the best nugget in the whole lobster. Okay, now the claws. I bend back the thumb and see if I can get all the meat out in one go. Huh, that doesn't happen very often. I've asked the kitchen to help me out a little bit. Thank you so much. Now all that's left is the tail. Up until now, I've been eating pretty much entirely with my hands. But to end this video on a more refined note, I will grab a knife and fork. The tail may be my least favorite part of a lobster. No challenge here. This is what we like to see. Relatively clean plate, big pile of shells, Erica 1, lobster 0. I am top of the food chain.
Long Island Weather is brought to you by PTRC.